What are you planning after your parents die? This is an ominous one, and it's lacking context, but I did see a comment that disappeared, because that's what happens with YouTube now, comments just disappear. I don't know if it's by the same person, and I can't remember if they were talking about themselves or just me, but I'm pretty sure it was about, like, being supported by your parents, and, because I live with my parents, I live in their house, they give me food and shelter, my physical needs are taken care of, you know, I think that's the context, and what am I going to do when they die? And, a lot of the time I sit around thinking like, oh no, I'm so privileged because, am I really privileged to have this level of mental illness that I can't function in society? But you know what I mean is like, not everyone with my level of mental illness has this level of support. And sometimes I'm like, ugh, that's a bit of an awkward thing, blah blah privilege, if you want to talk about that. But it also occurs to me that other people watching me might be in a similar situation. Maybe you also live with your parents and you're worried about what you're going to do after your parents die. So I guess I will talk about this one. But I'm going to start off, as usual, challenging the premise of this question because it's assuming that I live longer than my parents. And I know, really, we're really going full on with the morbid stuff at the moment. But I do have severe mental illness. I frequently think about how I don't want to be in this world. I'm not enjoying my existence. Why should I stick around? So there's that question. I may not outlive my parents. Now, I did get this dog, and he's a pretty healthy breed, so I may have signed up to live for the next 15 years, although that's not guaranteed, because I don't have the same connection with him that I did with Hope, and even with Hope, I would think about not being here, although usually I'd be like, I can't though, because I gotta be around for my dog. At least though, like, I do have a sense of duty towards this dog, and hopefully over time we do build more of a bond, and he loves me. I'm finding my emotions are a bit more numbed in the other direction, but he is a great dog. I don't know, it's just like, a lot of it is duty, and a lot of it is responsibility, and a lot of it is, like, I am overdoing it with him because I think I really am overcompensating for, like, my guilt around Hope, and, like, I wish I could have given him a better life and blah, 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 not made these certain mistakes. There's a lot of that going on. Even though, like, in the end, I know I did everything that I could have done. But, it's still, like, I think there's a lot of grief involved, and so, yeah. But in theory, I've signed up to live for another 15 years. Okay, so let's think about that. By then, my parents will be, like, 80, which is... they do both have their own health problems as you accumulate when you get older, but, they're doing pretty well. I think they're, like, maybe Dad's a bit more iffy, but I think Mum could keep going. Like, my bonsai sensei, she's in her 80s, and she's doing amazingly well, and I think, like, she loves what she does. People who love life, they'd live longer. That's what my first psychologist said to me, as if that was going to fix me, instead of making me think, well, duh, because do you know what horribly depressed people do? Yeah, there's a reason why happy people live longer, or at least one of the reasons. But, I think enjoying your life does make a significant impact to your lifespan, apart from taking yourself out. But yeah, no, she's doing so amazingly. And so my mum is also Japanese and a woman. Women tend to live longer for a variety of reasons. I think Mum's healthier than Dad. But anyway, both of them go to the gym. They're both gym junkies now. And they're trying to work on their health. They're both retired, so they don't have that stress anymore. And they've just got to make sure that their minds stay intact. See, they might not die, but they might not, be all up there upstairs. I'm already seeing a bit of interesting old people moments. But, physically, they are keeping fit. They're much more fit than I am, and physically healthy, because they go out and they do all these things, and they seem to be enjoying life well enough, definitely more than me. So, yes, they'll be 80, but these days, people can live to 100, especially, like, if they're doing everything right. Now, of course, things can always happen, so that might not be the case. But if you consider my situation, I'll be 50 in 15 years' time. And if not enough happens to change my life, if I'm still sitting around like this, making shitty YouTube videos and not doing much with my life, and then the dog dies, I'm not getting another dog. It's so much work. Like, I did talk to my parents a while back. I was like, maybe instead of getting two dogs like a year apart, we should like wait until this dog is 5 and then get another dog and then have like rolling. So then by the time one dog dies, you still have another with half its lifespan going and it keeps rolling over. But I don't know if I really want to do that because like raising a puppy is so much work. I guess we could get an older dog, but I don't know. Sometimes I worry a bit that because I spend so much time with this dog working on him, I might be setting him up for a bit of separation anxiety, which might become a problem if I try and do more band stuff and leave the house more. But then if we got another dog that might keep him company well enough, I don't know. It's hard to know where things are going to go. But like if my band isn't going or my solo project's not going or I haven't found ways to exist in the world without feeling like everything is crap, because like I've already spent the past 20 years or so mostly thinking that everything's crap. There was a period where I was on antidepressants where things seemed to be okay, although it was still rocky at times. But I did better for a little bit, but not very long, and then it's back to this kind of shit. My life has already been crap for so long. It's like, how much longer can I go? So if I haven't improved my life in 15 years, I don't know. And like, I don't even know if I will make it through the 15 years because there are other people who can look after dogs. Even like the breeder themselves, they would look after him if for whatever reason I wasn't able to, because they really care about the dogs they breed. So yeah, I don't know how long I'm going to live. I don't know if this will ever be an issue. So is there any point planning for that? Maybe planning for like unexpected shit, but in planning for this as an inevitability, I don't know. That's just the fact of mental illness, is I don't know how long I'm going to be able to hold on and stick around. Sorry to be morbid like that. Okay, but the other thing is like, oh my gosh, it's just complicated with my whole family life basically because, okay, well, physical survival wise, I think things will be okay because my parents own the house. I don't really know a huge amount about their finances, but I'm pretty sure like they've paid it off, or maybe they have like an offset account, but it's essentially paid off. So it's not like we're going to suddenly not have anywhere to live. And then, I mean, they're planning holidays, so I don't know how much money will be there. But I don't think they have any significant debts. So, financially, things should be okay, should still have a place to live. It'll just be more like I'll have to go out shopping or maybe order more shopping in, or I don't know, that kind of stuff. But then like, so mum does most of the cooking because she loves cooking. She loves eating different kinds of food, whereas I like basic food. So I would just cook basic food, which doesn't take very long. I've gotten good at lazy cooking, which I've got a few videos about. But what's actually more complicated is the fact that I have a profoundly disabled brother, and what's going to happen to him. That's a much bigger question. Now, I do have another brother, but he moved out. He's got a girlfriend now. They're making a life for themselves. He's got other things going on. I suppose it's possible that they would move in because there's space for another couple if my parents weren't around. I probably wouldn't mind that too much because, socially, they're actually better to me than my parents are. And like, my brother's girlfriend, she's really nice. Like we actually talk really well, and she shows an interest in me and, how I'm feeling, how I'm doing. We don't always get to talk too long because there's, socializing in this family is just chaotic. Dad talks over me. He talked over me the other day when she was over, and I'm just like, fucking. But, when it's just us, we get on pretty well. And, my brother, he's a really great guy. And, I didn't want him to get a girlfriend because I was like, no, stay here, But yeah, so I wouldn't mind if they moved in, but the real problem is the youngest, he's got the disabilities. What's going to happen to him? Because, I think, it's just, there's so much to get into. And this is like a big part of, contribution to my traumas. But like, shit, where do I even start? So he has carers, and it's like, would he still live here? And we'd have to keep organizing his carers. But a long time ago, when he was younger, I used to help at nappy time, holding his hands so that he wouldn't touch everything while mum or dad are trying to change his nappy. And there was a long time ago, I was like, I can't do this anymore. And they stopped expecting it of me. In more recent times, like when they went on holiday, my other brother would look after everything. But obviously he has his life now, so it's not really fair on him. And it wasn't fair on either of us back then, really. We're just... insert childhood trauma here. But, yeah. So since he moved out, Mum, I think, was definitely hoping that I would pick up the slack in terms of looking after him. And I had to tell her, like, I cannot. You go on holiday, I cannot manage booking all the carers. Like, if anything goes wrong, I cannot handle that. I'm having enough trouble with my own mental illness, keeping myself together, looking after my own affairs. Like, it's a lot. And, you know, dealing with my psychology when I have breakdowns, making sure I don't off myself, you know. I cannot handle a disabled kid's issues, especially now that I know all the trauma, and it's just like super triggering for me. Like, I'm realizing I do get triggered by disability type stuff, especially when they're getting so much more support than me, because I guess you could call me disabled at this point. And like, when at my last university actually did classify me as disabled because of how mentally ill I was, and that was even before the schizoid diagnosis. So okay, you classify me as disabled, but because it's not like an obvious disability, I don't get the same level of support. So yeah, it is triggering for me. Learning to use that word. But yeah, no, I told Mum I cannot look after this, but I know how to log into her computer, and I know how to get all her passwords, and I'm probably the only one who does if Mum and Dad weren't around. And I think she thinks that I will just take over even after having had that conversation. And I'm like, if it was up to me, I would put him into care, like state care. I don't know. Not my responsibility. I cannot look after him. I think my other brother would want to try to look after him, though. That's my biggest concern after my parents die, is what's going to happen with that whole situation, because I cannot handle it. And I think my parents are somewhat deluded about his future, because obviously they're not going to be around forever. I mean, we don't know how long he's going to live, but, you know, medicine has gotten so good. He's actually lived way longer than they initially expected, because, you know, his medication's been managed well and all that. But, you know, in our childhood, they could have put him into state care. Like, at any point, he could have gone into state care, but they chose to keep him at home. Now, granted, he is happier that way, but I am miserable. You know, this kid, he has outings every day. Everyone knows him. He goes and does all the fun stuff. He has memberships at different museums and parks and whatever. So he's constantly having fun. It's like every kid's dream every day. Meanwhile, I am miserable every day, and if I raise the wrong issue, I will be punished for it. So there's this sort of deep level of unfairness. There's no one helping me have fun every day. Yeah. Anyway, no, like, they're giving him a great life at my expense in a lot of ways, but I just can't continue that. That's their choice. My choice would be put him in state care. Now, we do have extended family who might help us out. I guess it depends, like, when this happens and who's left, because I think it's like, you know, my parents' generation might be more likely to help. I'm not sure about the cousins, because, like, I don't even know where some of them are overseas. I haven't really kept up with them. We see each other occasionally, but yeah, I'm sort of disconnected from everyone. So at that point, I'm not sure what would happen. But yeah, that is a big concern for us, and it's a concern that a lot of people don't have. It's sort of, you know, disabled families. Every family of someone who's disabled has to worry what happens when you die, especially parents with disabled kids. This is actually very, very young. I decided I would not have kids, because the way I phrased it even back then was I already lost my whole childhood to this. I am not going to have another kid and lose my whole adulthood to that. But of course, I'm still living here, so I'm still stuck with that same initial kid, and, you know, he's basically just like a big kid, so I didn't even need to have kids to lose my adulthood. I mean, like, you know, I don't have to do a lot of his care, and I've been kind of strong about not feeling guilted into that. Like, you know, I think one of the reasons that I am a night person is because if I woke up early, my parents would just make me feed him. So why would I get up early? Like, this is after school finished and I'm, going into uni, or when I dropped out of uni and all that. I started sleeping in more because, like, I did try to be a morning person, but I realized if I was up too early, I would be made to do shit that's kind of gross because he's messy and, yeah. So after my parents die, physically things might be okay. It's more the complication of having the disabled brother. Is that what this question was? Emotionally, it's hard to know how I would react because, I'm not happy with my life, and having realized this childhood trauma stuff and my parents not really picking up, like, I've explained to them the stuff, but I don't think they realize the significance, and so they're better in some ways, but they also still treat me like crap in other ways. So am I going to have any significant emotions there? Well, maybe not. It's not really something that bothers me a huge amount, and in some ways it might be a relief because I won't have that pressure anymore. I know this sounds really cold, and so I'm a bit hesitant to say it, but then again, this is a channel where I talk a lot about schizoid stuff, so, being cold and all that. I just hesitate because I know it's not socially acceptable, but that's kind of how I feel, is like, I don't know that I would be too upset, and I might actually be relieved. I think one thing that I sometimes worry about is, I have this, I think it's bullshit, but I have this possible dissociative identity disorder label hovering over me. And one thing that I have heard is, like, when someone's abusers, now I wouldn't really go as far to say that my parents abused me, like maybe emotional abuse, but I think it's kind of like accidental. If it's accidental, is it still abuse? Grey areas anyway, but let's just use that word because that's what's used in this context. With people who have DID, when their abusers die, and the threat is gone, sometimes that's when all the DID stuff is actually triggered, if you believe the theories about DID. And, I kind of don't, and even if it is true, I feel like that's probably not going to happen to me. But it is kind of a, like, what if? What if that lady was right and could see something that I don't realize? And what if when my parents die, if I'm still around, my brain goes, okay, we can relax. And then I start turning into one of those crazy DID people. Like, I'm only aware of one part of me that's kind of a problem, but I don't think that would change things if my parents just weren't around. But that's, like, one of the more, like, maybe funnier things to think about. Like, what if that did happen, though? What if I've been wrong? What if I've been in denial this whole time and I actually did have DID over the whole glass child trauma stuff? Yeah, kind of an interesting question. Anyway, I hope that sort of answers this. I'm trying to think, like, is there anything else? Like, I don't plan to move anywhere. I don't have any particular ambitions, and it's really hard because I don't know where I'm going to be at if I'm still around when that happens. Will I be doing more music? I'll be getting a bit old by then, but, there are older musicians who still keep going, so as long as I keep the skills up, it should be okay. I'm not in pop music where you have to look young or people start getting weird. I'm in underground music, so it doesn't actually matter as long as I can still make the music. Artsy stuff, can still do that when you're older. But yeah, I really don't know. I think that's all I can think of, so maybe I should just stop. I had to put Triton in his crate because he got up from his nap, like, way too early. And hopefully he's napping now. Yeah. I'm tired. My life, I'm really stuck in dog mum mode constantly at the moment, and I need to break away from it. Making these videos is one way to break away, but, like, I've started to slack off on the music and art again, and I'm like, is it because I'm not looking at new music? Like, for a while there, I was looking at Cyrus and Noctica. I was still gonna make that video. Maybe if I make that video, I'll get inspired again. I don't know. How do I keep myself inspired to do creative stuff? I should probably get more sleep because being tired doesn't help all the time. Anyway, I think that's it for this question. But yeah, I just don't know if I'm going to be around after my parents die. I might die first. One of my first thoughts when my grandparents passed away was I'm probably the person who's at the highest risk of dying next. That was my thought. And it hasn't really changed because, I mean, I don't really know what my aunts and uncles, their health is like, but I still think it could be me next. Because I don't know how long I can put up with this shitty world. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope that answered the question.